Hi students, I'm Una.
And I'm Scott.
I'm a UK OET teacher.
I'm also an OET teacher from the UK.
We've been teaching students to pass their exams for many years.
And now we're excited to help you pass your exams too.
This is the Swoosh English OET Podcast.
Let's get started.
Are you struggling with your OET exam preparation?
Are you unsure how to reach your target score of a grade A or B? Let Swoosh English help you get there.
Go to www.swooshenglish.com or click the link in the description for your free OET complete guide to writing.
Everything you need to know to pass your OET writing step by step. Go to www.swooshenglish.com or click on the link in the description below.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Swoosh English Podcast. My name is Una.
My name is Scott.
And today we are looking again at grammar when it comes to your OET writing.
But what particular part of grammar are we looking at today?
So we're going to look at articles. Woo!
Articles, the dreaded articles, as well as connectors as well.
And connectors, yes. So we mark letters frequently, and one of the common mistakes we see, articles.
Lack of articles, the wrong article, or even the wrong article used as well.
Exactly.
As well as connectors as well, aka the incorrect connector, or maybe a too informal or too formal connector has been used as well. That's a common one.
And also just overusing connectors as well. It's something I hate to see, a connector, when it is simply unnecessary.
So this podcast today is going to take upon our own experience as teachers who mark OET letters, and we're going to just bring some information to you to hopefully improve those aspects of your OET letter writing.
Yeah, and it's going to be a good podcast as well, just to get back to basics and look at some of the rules, that we can follow around articles, so using a, an, and the.
Because articles are quite the minefield.
Definitely, and sometimes even these rules we can follow, but then there's an exception, and English. Sorry for English, but we're going to give you some of the rules that you can follow, which really, hopefully, will make it a bit clearer for you when it comes to choosing which article to use.
Let's get started, shall we?
Yes.
So the most important thing to notice is that when you're looking at your case notes in the OET writing examination, is that the case notes will be completely devoid of anything which would resemble an article or even a connector device. So they're just notes in a note format. It's up to you to expand upon the notes, reformulate them, and put it into a letter. So the first thing you're going to have to do, of course, is add your articles whenever they are appropriate.
That is important to note, because a lot of the time you will see students just, transferring over sentences from the case notes. And when you're actually putting those into a formal sentence within a letter, it's not correct. You need to add in the articles that have been omitted for those very, bullet point shorthand case notes. So don't forget that, guys. You will need to add in your articles. So you don't want to lose marks by leaving those articles out.
And often they are left out entirely, or the wrong article has been used depending on the context. So shall we get started upon some of the rules in which you can use articles? So of course, our disclaimer today is that this short podcast is not going to be sufficient for people who have a real issue with articles. After all, there are lessons upon lessons upon lessons going from beginner level all the way up to advanced level on how to use articles. But it's just going to be a bit of a signposting area, a way to show you the right way in terms of what you can do in terms of articles and how they can be applied in an OET context.
Yeah.
But it doesn't substitute actually doing the genuine lessons around it by itself.
Yeah, make sure if you're struggling with these and having problems with them, find some grammatical exercises, go look at those basic foundational activities and apply some of the rules that we will tell you about today in those kind of activities.
All right.
Okay, so first of all, it's important to note that, of course, we only use articles with nouns. So when you're looking at your sentences and you're asking yourself, do I use a, an, or the first thing you should be considering is this a noun or a noun phrase, okay? What is the type of word that I'm considering to use the a or the? So always asking yourself these questions, as you go through. Do I use it here? Why? Is it a noun? These kind of questions, okay? So for example, patient presented with severe bruises. So what are the nouns in this sentence?
We have two nouns. We have patient and we have bruises.
Yeah, of course. And then severe bruises is like our noun phrase in this situation. So these are the words, the nouns, that we're going to consider whether we need an article in that sentence. So patient presented with severe bruises. Did that sound like a fully formed grammatical sentence to you?
Absolutely not.
So how would you change that sentence?
Of course, we are missing an article in this case as well. So we need to look at the two nouns themselves, patient and bruises. So let's look at severe bruises, for example. Would it be right to say a severe bruises? Would it be also right to say the severe bruises? also incorrect as well.
In the first instance, yeah.
In the first instance, but is this, in this case, the first instance? No, we're not referring to specific bruises, and also we cannot use a or an because it would be incorrect because the noun is plural. It is plural.
Yes.
And that's the
going to
most
get
important
into
part.
that. Yeah.
But patient, are we referring to a specific patient or a general patient? Would we say a patient or the patient? More than likely the patient, because the letter is referring to one specific person.
Exactly.
Therefore, we use the definite article.
Yes, exactly. So we're starting off with the patient presented with severe bruises. So that is the answer. And of course, now you've mentioned some of the reasons why we have chosen that particular article and no article for severe bruises. Okay, great. So you're asking yourself, is it a noun? First thing, okay? Next question is it a singular or a plural noun? This is a big question when it comes to choosing whether you should choose a and an or the, okay? So a or an you can use for a singular or a countable noun, okay? Like apple, an apple, okay? Would you say an apples? Apples?
Absolutely not.
No, because you cannot use a or an with a plural or uncountable noun, okay? So that's a big consideration. Of course, then you can use the with singular and plural nouns, okay? So the apple, the apples. Okay, so it's a big thing to consider. Are you going to use a and an if it's a singular or a countable noun? Yes.
Okay. And also regarding countable nouns versus uncountable nouns too, we have to consider what articles we can use. So we have a or an versus the. So when it comes to a and an, they can only be used with countable nouns. For example, one doctor, two apples, three diseases, etc.
Better words, in fairness. I'm using apples.
Yeah. We also can't use that with uncountable nouns as well. When it comes to using the article the, it can be used for both countable and uncountable nouns. For example, we can say the doctor, but we can also say the information. We wouldn't say a information, for example. So we need to actually make sure that we know the rules regarding that. So that is countable nouns with a or an, uncountable nouns with with the, as well as countable nouns as well.
Exactly, as well as countable nouns. Wonderful. So we're considering whether it's a noun, whether it is singular, plural, whether it's countable, uncountable. And don't forget, like you say, that those, make sure you have also noted and you're good at understanding whether a word is countable or uncountable. Because a lot of the time we see things like, informations. Okay. Or what are common ones that you see? I always see these kind of examples, like whenever students use S on a word that is uncountable and you can't count
There are
it.
lots of examples. It's hard to actually think of one on the spot.
Yeah, but make sure, guys, that you pay attention to this because, it's really important and it's a terrible mistake to make, okay? So that's just a little side note. Have a look at making sure you understand if something's countable or uncountable.
Or even if something may or may not take an article as well. So an uncountable noun may either take an article or it might not take an article, for example.
Yes, it depends. Okay, so again, the can be used with countable and uncountable nouns. So if the noun is uncountable, it will take the or no article. So next question you have to consider. Are we being general or specific? This is the big one. Okay, so the indicates that we are referring to something specific. Okay, so like the example at the beginning, the patient. Okay, so because we know the patient we're talking about, we know who we're referring to, obviously the patient from the case notes. Okay, which is a patient is showing with bruises.
It's just showing something that's far too general. So a patient might actually give the referral doctor or nurse indication that a patient. Is there more than one patient?
Yeah.
How many are in this?
We don't know who the patient is.
Exactly.
So make sure that you are deciding if it's general or specific. Okay. So then of course when we talked about specific with the, and then when you're being general, you're using a and an. So that's really important. So for example, when we're talking about the severe bruises, are we being specific here at the beginning? When we're first saying the patient presented with severe bruises, are we talking about specific severe bruises at that point?
No, we're talking about general bruises at that point.
Yes, and then we're going to use no article because, of course, it is plural. Okay?
So we're going to combine we're combining these rules together in this case.
Exactly. As you can see, all these rules combine to show you why you use a, an, or the. So the patient presented with severe bruises, the patient is specific, and severe bruises is just general. Okay? At this point in time, we're just introducing them. Okay.
Very, very well worded.
Okay, so what about our next rule then?
So the next rule we're talking about is, are we mentioning something for the first or the second time? So it also depends on what article we're going to use. So if we're mentioning something for the first time, then we are unlikely to use the. We actually start off either by using no article or an article, for example, or versus and, for example. So, for example, we might say something like, the patient is presenting with a staph infection. So we use the and in this case, a non-specific noun to introduce the thing
for the
exact first time.
Yeah.
But then when we're going to refer to that staph infection again, that is when we would switch to the definite article there. So we might say, the staph infection has been with this patient for a long time. So keep that in mind.
Exactly.
And for the first time, but then use the for the second time that article that the given noun or phrase or object has been used again.
Are you struggling with your OET exam preparation?
Are you unsure how to reach your target score of a grade A or B? Let Swoosh English help you get there.
Go to www.swooshenglish.com or click the link in the description for your free OET complete guide to writing.
Everything you need to know to pass your OET writing step by step. Go to www.swooshenglish.com or click on the link in the description below.
Exactly. And you will see this a lot, whenever you're reading stories or in your reading. Take note when you're reading as well, where you can see where a and an is used or the is used. And ask yourself, why is that particular article being used at that given time? That's a really good way for you to practice this and really test yourself and assess as well. And in stories, you commonly see a and an first time for the first reference, and then whenever it's being referred to.
You would also hear that in the news as well. If you think about a news article, it might be referring to for example, there was a plane crash last night. The plane crashed in the US, for example. So you notice that as well, how things are being referenced in succession as well.
Definitely.
And it's the same. It's even the same with writing an OET letter as well.
Yeah, so it might logically mean that towards the beginning of the letter, you're going to see more a and an. And then towards the end of the letter, you're going to see more the, because you're probably referencing things again for the second time.
If the noun is referenced again.
Yeah, so even with our first sentence that we had, the patient presented with severe bruises. Then if you're obviously there was no article with severe bruises. But then again, when you might want to refer to the bruises again, the bruises.
You use the bruises because we're actually specifying those particular bruises at this point, which is important.
Yeah, like the bruises have begun to show signs of healing, for example. Okay, so we're referring to them the second time, and we want to refer to specific bruises as well now because we know what we're talking about. Okay, guys, so those are some of the rules that we just wanted to talk through that can be a really good guide for you when it comes to choosing the correct article. So what are the important questions? Is it a noun? Is it plural or singular? Is it countable or uncountable? And do you want to refer to it generally or in a specific way? And that was it.
That is it. So also, there's also more sub rules involving the use of not using an article as well, which didn't really cover. But as we said, that's for you to go around and go away and actually do your own research when it comes to using articles, because it is quite convoluted. There's a lot of different information out there.
And I also left out one of the final things in my little summary there. First reference, a, and next reference, the. Don't forget that one as well.
All right, shall we now move on to connectors, which is another thing that we often see when writing OET letters. We see either the overuse of the connectors, the underuse, or inappropriate connectors being used overall.
Definitely.
So what is a connector? It is a device which connects a sentence together, or maybe even two sentences together as well. There's two different kinds of connectors. They're known as simple connectors, aka they are conjunctions. They can be and, but, or your complex connectors, which could be however, therefore, although, unless, subsequently, which are often used to link two different ideas together.
And of course, there's lots more examples there than what Scott just mentioned. We're just giving
examples.
you a brief overview. But these connectors will also really help the flow of the sentence for your reader. And that's one of the things we always emphasize in OET. You want to always be considering how easy it is for your reader, the medical professional you're writing the letter to read that letter. So they can make it more approachable, the letter.
A great way to link not only just sentences together, but several sentences or even paragraphs together as well. Use these cohesive devices, which is cohesion in your writing.
Yes, and like you said, they can become at the beginning of the sentence or in the middle of the sentence as well. Okay, so connectors should offer additional information to the reader as well. They're providing, for example, emphasizing contrasting meanings with such as however,
or even similar meanings as well.
Similar meanings.
They might be used to list points. They might be used used to show cause and effect as
Yes,
well.
yes.
There are many
Adding
different meanings.
reason, adding reason and showing succession, like firstly, secondly, giving a nice flow to the letter as well, definitely. So, Scott, what connectors should our students avoid?
Oh, well, the type of connectors that you really want to avoid are the ones that are too overtly academic or also too informal as well. For example, one connector I often see when marking my OET letters is besides. Besides is far too informal. You wouldn't typically use that. In addition, you wouldn't use academic connectors such as furthermore or moreover. Great for an IELTS essay, but not for an OET letter because a doctor simply wouldn't use this when writing.
Or hence, meanwhile, aforementioned. We see that one a lot. So just avoid that. It's a bit too academic in its nature. And of course, we want our letter to be formal, but it doesn't need to be that academic, and it's not standard practice. So yes, those are an example of some of the connectors you can use throughout your essay. But I really want to emphasize this point because it just is something that I would notice a lot when I'm reading letters, and correcting them. Be careful not to use unnecessary connectors and simply overuse connectors.
For example, there's been times where we've actually seen a connecting device at the beginning of every sentence in every paragraph. That's simply overuse of connectors. And you've added on several words which are just unnecessary as well. And believe it or not, the overuse of connectors can actually take away from your cohesion because the reader's just thinking, why are they there? They don't need to be there.
Oh, 100% it takes away from your cohesion. And let's not forget, guys, that, you don't want to you've got 180 to 200 words here to play with, and of course you can go over that a little bit, but you want to make sure that you are writing, as you said, cohesively and not writing too many words. So if there is a sentence which makes complete sense without that connector and it really isn't adding any extra meaning, consider whether it needs to be used.
Here's an example.
Yes, give us
an example. Is the following. Furthermore, Mrs. Jones will need to attend a follow-up appointment in 3 days' time. I have to question, is there really a use for that connector, which is also too academic to begin with? Is there any real use for that connector? Furthermore, it doesn't need to say. If you just simply wrote, Mrs. Jones will need to attend a follow-up appointment in 3 days' time, does the use of the word furthermore actually change anything about the sentence? No, it doesn't. It's too academic and it's unnecessary. So really think about whether your connectors are not just appropriate, but do they need to be used as well?
Good point. Yes. Always ask yourselves these critical questions as you're going through your OET writing. It's a really good idea, isn't it? Like, as we've laid out the questions here in this podcast that you should ask yourself, ask those questions inside your head as well when you're writing the letters. Even afterwards, do the letter within your time conditions in 45 minutes, but then before you even submit the letter, because you're still practicing for your OET exam, ask yourself, write down those questions and say, okay, and then tick the boxes and stuff, and just make sure that you're reflecting on the letter as well.
It also adds to the need for a student to have a teacher. Look at their work and correct their letter writings. Firstly, of course, you're going to make article mistakes. Article mistakes are incredibly common, even if you have a high level of English, because they are so convoluted. But of course, having an expert actually give you some advice on those article mistakes can make your learning a lot more cohesive, and you can reflect upon it.
Definitely.
In addition, as well, to use a connector, you're going to actually get some information about your use of connectors as well. Are you using things that are too overtly academic or maybe too informal? And also, are you unnecessarily using connectors as well? They can bring down your word count and make your text more cohesive as well.
Yes. And when you do get feedback from a teacher, make sure that you look at it immediately. Don't just leave it to the side, a week later go back to it.
So make sure you even look at it full stop.
Yeah, exactly. So make sure you're looking at that feedback immediately, taking it in, reflecting upon it, and making sure that you then go and work on that particular grammar point, whether it be articles, connectors, or tenses, and ask yourself why you made that mistake, how to correct it, and how to stop yourself from making that mistake going forward. And you could even create a grammar checklist so that you can, be looking at your list and writing down the mistakes that you made, writing down how it's corrected. And it means that you're just really actively working out on those mistakes.
So for example, with your articles and your connectors, have a list of the rules as you're writing your letter. So every time you're about to use an article, think, okay, can I use this article if you're not sure of the rule? Refer to your list and go, okay, articles are difficult, but this rule says this. Try and apply it and see how it works out. Get that correction. If it's great, fantastic. If not, your teacher can probably give you some guidance on what you've done wrong regarding that particular incorrect use of that particular article.
And the more you do that, the more you put this practice in and reflect on these mistakes, the sooner or later it will just become habitual to you to use the correct article in those given situations. Okay, so that's us for today. We're just talked about articles and connectors and how you can improve work on the rules and work on your OET writing overall.
So now you can see how using articles efficiently as well as connectors is incredibly useful for your OET writing. It's now up to you to go away and practice using them to improve your OET letter writing.
Thanks so much for joining us, guys, and we'll see you again soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.